Hello, and thank you for joining us for Changer Chats. I'm Grant Venable, Director of Change at Be the Change Volunteers. In this episode, we get to speak to a new volunteer changer who went on his first trip recently to Jayuya, Puerto Rico with Be the Change Volunteers. Jayuya is one of the highest cities in the central mountain region of the island where BTCV sends teams. My new friend, Nelson Priddy of Anchorage, Alaska, worked alongside a team of volunteers to help create a better playground and recreation area for kids at their school in Jayuya. Today, you will hear what it's like to be a new volunteer with BTCV and join one of our teams on an adventure in service. Nelson, my friend, welcome to Changer Chats.
Thanks very much, Grant. Good to be here.
So, Nelson, I got a few icebreaker type questions just to learn a little bit about your story. And then we're going to dive into what you experienced as part of the team and how you observed the project unfold. And just want to learn your experience so that other changers and potential changers who are thinking about traveling with BTCV can hear what it's like to get prepared for one of their trips. So, Nelson, just first, how did you learn about Be the Change Volunteers? Because we are a small mom and pop organization. I know you didn't see a commercial because we don't make commercials, but how did you learn about us?
I learned about Be the Change through one of your longstanding changers, Al Rolfing, commonly referred to as Uncle Al.
Uncle Al.
My wife and I have known Al and his wife, Lori, for over 20 years. We met him when we first moved to Missouri, right at the beginning of my training at the University of Missouri. My wife actually worked for Lori and Al while I was doing my internship and residency there. And so we became good friends. And then when Al started volunteering with Be the Change, he told me about the experience, and obviously a very positive force in his life, or he wouldn't have gone on so many trips. He's a man dedicated to service. It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious, wants to help others, wants to help kids in particular. And I think this organization has ticked all the boxes for him, being as service oriented as he is. And so I've heard about various projects over the years, just chatting with him, but hadn't had the opportunity to, I wasn't able to, better said, wasn't able to make the opportunity to go until I retired from my professional career as a veterinary surgeon. Now I have time to do things like this.
Of all the trips, Uncle Al's been just about everywhere you can go. What made you choose Puerto Rico? Was it just the timing was right, or you were interested in going to the Caribbean and serving specifically? What made you choose Puerto Rico?
Al.
He said, "This is the
Al,
one."
yeah, Al said this would be, as I referred to in our pre-discussion, kind of a changer trip on training wheels, and the timing worked out well with my family. We've got a lot of stuff going on, as other families do, and this was going to work out timing wise. And ultimately, I got wife approval. I do have an interest in Spanish speaking countries, but I have an interest in all countries. So the presence of the language wasn't necessarily a decision maker for me. And then the other thing, Al described the project and what we would be doing, improving a playground and improving a learning environment for kids. So it probably sounds somewhat corny, but yeah, at the root of it, if I can help make a child's learning environment better, I'm all in. That's a great thing to do for them.
Yeah, I love doing playgrounds, man. I've told people maybe when I retire, all I'll do is playgrounds because they're as fun as they sound. They're fun to put in and it's fun to watch the kids enjoy them. So Nelson,
Right.
leading up to the trip, we've got some pre-trip communications. We get all the volunteers registered. We do some footwork behind the scenes as you get going. But you talked to Al about other trips and just what were you expecting? And I know it's hard to think about what you were expecting after you've experienced it, but what were you expecting and what was really unexpected that you enjoyed a lot?
Okay, so it's pretty easy to tell you what I was expecting. I was expecting to fly to Puerto Rico. We'd get off the plane, we'd spend the night somewhere, and we'd get up the next morning and we would start work. And we would work until the day before we came home. And then we'd get on the plane and come back home. And that work would be get up early, work all day, make sure that you take plenty of water breaks because it's going to be hot. So I was
Yeah.
primed for that.
Good.
And I mean, I've worked outside. I know the importance of doing that. Um, Al told me about one of his experiences that involved concentrating more on the work than he should have. But he learned his lesson, and sounds like the organization learned from that experience as well.
Yeah.
So I didn't give too much thought to accommodations. I did not think I knew we would be dry, and that's really what I was hoping, is that we would be dry and have an opportunity to get clean periodically. But I sort of equated it to a hunting camp, honestly.
Oh
That's
yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like, well, geez, I've been out in the middle of nowhere for 10 days to 2 weeks and not had a problem. This has got to be a major step up from that, no matter what we do. So
Yeah.
that's what I was expecting. So I didn't give too much thought to food. I felt like food was going to happen. I'm not a picky eater, so I was pretty excited about what we would be eating. I really did not want to eat McDonald's every day, and I knew we weren't going to be doing anything like that. So that was good. I actually thought we were probably going to wind up cooking some of our meals together, and I was a little concerned about that because I'm not the most gifted cook. Um, but I thought, well, if they're going to bring me along and that's part of the deal, I'll do my best. So that's what I was expecting. Yeah, that's pretty well it. What
So
I
what was
was
unexpected then?
I did not expect the opportunities to go see local sites. I did not expect the extensive interaction with the local community. And it's odd that I would not expect that, because before I went on the trip, I read the book that Jimmy wrote along with you and Christy, and that was extremely helpful. I really enjoyed that. I mean, the stories are touching, obviously, but my favorite story in there, and I think underscores the value of the book, is the story of what one can consider a failed expedition and
Yeah.
all that was learned. I mean, everybody's a hero when everything goes right. It's when things go south that people shine. And it was obvious on this trip to Puerto Rico what you all have learned along the way. So the extensive interaction with the local community was great on many levels. I think that streamlined the project, yes, but it was great to show up there and meet people who were there and
Yeah.
experience the local community and chat with them a little bit and get to know them. They're great people.
Yeah.
They really are. And you're not going to get that sort of interaction outside of this sort of experience. So,
Yeah,
being,
you can't purchase that. You can't fabricate it or purchase it. It all has to be very real and authentic.
yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was very rich, and that level of interaction with the local community was unexpected. The other thing that was really unexpected, even though I knew you all had been to Puerto Rico before, it was obvious that the relationships that you all have there are long-standing and extensive. I mean, these are people, they know you on a practical and a personal level. And that combination of practical and personal really is tremendously beneficial, and beneficial to the project, beneficial to you all, beneficial to newcomers like I am. I mean, it works on countless levels.
Yeah, I've definitely seen where like relationship and partnership can be used as a punchline
Yeah.
And for us, we work very hard to make sure that it is way more than that because that trust is what allows us, you know, we brought light equipment onto a schoolyard with kids, a skid loader,
Yeah.
you can't do that without trust. You've got to have some street credit. And really the street credit that comes before BTCV is our community partner, Unidos por Utuado. Maribel with that organization is known as the mayor in every community she goes to. She's not actually an elected official. They just call her the mayor. But really, that trust and those relationships are because we've invested mutually in each other. So thanks for pointing that out. That's critical for a successful project.
Yeah. Al had alluded to the relationships, and I certainly heard about the site visits and the prep that goes in. And then I read the book, and yeah, that's all very critical stuff. And I think that's what contributes to things looking as seamless as they did when I came along. I mean, geez, everything just happened. And as the week progressed, and as I learned more and more about what was happening behind the scenes day to day and what had happened behind the scenes before we even got to Puerto Rico, it's astounding. It really is. And yeah, I really admired it. Admittedly, this is the first such service project I have ever been on, so I don't have another thing to compare it to. But if I'm comfortable saying if every service-oriented project functioned like this, the world would be a whole lot better place.
Oh man, that's a wonderful compliment. Thank you. Well, we have
Yeah,
awesome partners that help us make it happen. Hey,
you
let's
absolutely
talk to
do.
the potential new volunteers. One of the things in Puerto Rico that is unique to Puerto Rico. In Peru, we have a partner who owns an ecotourism lodge. So we know where we're going to sleep, what we're going to eat. It's very structured. Even in Malawi, it's rather structured through the lodge that we stay at and other locations. But in Puerto Rico, we work in a different community every year. We put in a playground or we do a specific service project at a school, and then we go to another school in the same school district but because we move around each year in Puerto Rico, where we sleep varies from year to year. And we have slept in the schools on cots. We have slept in camps. We have slept all over. There's not a lot of hotel options in the mountains. And we try to keep our trips affordable. So one of the things that the communities in Puerto Rico typically do as part of their buy-in is they find a place for us to sleep. This year, our partners connected with a coffee plantation. In the region of Jayuya, there's several pop coffee plantations, and they have migrant workers. And so when the workers are not using the migrant worker housing, it was available for us. And so we got to stay there. It was a small house with 8 guys. Tell us about that, man.
I thought it was terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting to sleep on the floor. We slept on beds with mattresses. It was an instant upgrade. And all the guys, I think, were as neat and tidy as they could be. And so I didn't feel like the place was just an overwhelming mess, which with the wrong 8 guys, it could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heck, we had a shower in there. That
Yep.
was great. So I was not expecting a hotel at all. I'm not trying to sell something here, but I thought the accommodations were great. I mean, but honestly, I wasn't going there intending to be in, I mean, this wasn't a sightseeing tourism trip for me. It was a work project to help kids. So that was my mindset going in. And I wasn't the accommodation thing to me just wasn't much of a factor.
Yeah, I bring it up for that first time volunteer because if you read the flyer for Puerto Rico, it basically says, we'll find you someplace to sleep. That's kind of the long and short of it. And
Right.
so this is just to reaffirm that, we don't necessarily know until 2 weeks before we get there where we will sleep, but we promise it will be sufficient for the teams.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. I think it. I mean, what do you really, I guess the way I looked at it is what do I really need to not not just survive, but be reasonably comfortable. I
Yeah.
need I need a safe, secure place to put my stuff.
Yep.
Um, I'd like to be clean and dry,
Yep.
and I'd like to have a source of water.
Yep.
And we did better than that. I mean, we had a shower, we had a source of water, we had a shower, we had coffee every morning.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Great coffee.
Great coffee. We're on a coffee plantation, so that was outstanding. Um, and the other part of it we haven't mentioned is the other guys there. It was a great group of guys. We had
Yeah.
wonderful conversation every morning, every evening. It was a social group of guys. We laughed, we talked. That was a big part of it. I I looked forward to that
Yeah.
every day, every moment. And it was fun just to sit and listen to what people had to say. So
Yeah,
I,
we worked hard, man. I mean, we worked so hard, 8 to 5, basically, outdoor physical labor. And sometimes we try to do some cultural exchange stuff in the evenings where we can find it or where it makes sense. And we did some nights, but we were tired. And so it was nice to just, like you said, get a shower and then just sit around in that one small room, and just shoot the breeze with each other. That was great for me too. I really enjoy that aspect of these teams.
the other thing there, it was hot and a little bit humid. And I mean, keep in mind, I was coming from Alaska, which was cold. And so it was really warm. And what did you guys do that would not have been on my radar, honestly, as a planner of trips? You went right out and got a bunch of fans.
Well, actually, the school loaned
Yeah.
us 5 fans. We had proactively purchased two, which would not have been enough. And so that was really nice that we had everybody basically got their own fan, which made a
Yeah.
huge difference. We didn't need AC. I don't think anybody up in Jayuya has AC because it gets really nice in the evenings. But yeah, that made the accommodations great.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Nelson, let's talk about. So, one of the things I love in the Caribbean is the food. Let's talk about the food and the different food things that you tried there. Maybe what you liked the best. One of my favorite things is plantains when I go to Puerto Rico. Can't get good plantains anywhere else.
yeah, I learned about the plantain. I love plantains. We have already bought plant. We have a big Filipino community here in Anchorage and Alaska in general. And the Filipinos like their plantains, so they're in the grocery stores.
Huh.
So we have purchased plantains. I love them. They're fantastic. So I learned about those. As I said earlier, I didn't want to eat at McDonald's every day. We did not. We
No,
got
sir.
local food, and I love food and I love trying different things. There were different things for us to try just about every day. And it was nice to be with a group of people who appreciated local stuff and who were willing to try the things that the local Puerto Ricans ate. I mean, we all
Yeah.
know what we eat. It's fun to learn what other people eat. And oftentimes you find something that's a whole lot better than what you do eat. So I'll refer a lot to the guys on the trip that all had a great attitude about things. I don't remember anybody eating anything and saying, "Ooh, I don't like that."
Yeah.
Or one of the sins of humanity, in my opinion, is to look at something and immediately tell yourself that's terrible without giving it a whirl. And there
Yeah.
are some exceptions to that rule, but everybody on the trip was willing to try something, and more often than not, they were favorably impressed.
Yeah,
So
man.
I like the food. We did go to restaurants and we tried different things there. The restaurant experience I thought was phenomenal, and I'll tell you why. You've got most of the time seven of us together, and Raul was in charge of meals. And he would, if we ate in a restaurant, he would go into a restaurant and he would order for everybody. And more often than not, we all had the same thing. it was very, very efficient and I think very friendly for the local restaurant and made it such that hopefully we were not a burden to the restaurant. If Raul just walked in and said, "Hey, we're all having the number two."
Yep.
And I thought that was a very smart way for a group to go into a small restaurant and order. And that approach would not have been something I would have considered. I would have gone into a restaurant, had everybody pick whatever they wanted, and then, the timing could be off, I mean, on a whole lot of levels.
We've experienced all that.
Yeah. So I thought it was a really smart way to go, particularly if you are truly considering what's not only best for the group, but what's best for the restaurant. I mean, these are small restaurants and I mean they're all mom and pop outfits. And that way Raul could go in and say, "Hey, we've got 7 people. What dish what do you have today?
What's good today?
What's good today?" And I thought that was great. So
Well, thank you for that. Let's talk some more about the actual construction project. So this team had 8 volunteers, 7 from outside Puerto Rico, and then the eighth man is Rodolfo Lacaras. He is one of our friends from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. He has been volunteering locally with Be the Change volunteers since January of 2018 when we did our first project. He's come out as much as he can. He works, but when he can, he comes out for a few days and gives his time. This year, he brought his son Maurice with him, and so we actually accomplished a lot for 8 people on the project. Part of the team did dirt work, stump removal, grounds preparation for the metal playground equipment that we installed, and we divided up kind of into subgroups so that we could do different tasks on campus. You were on the team assigned to assemble 3 prefabricated gazebos, which I will say, as the team leader, ended up being way more complex than I initially imagined it would be. Those things had about 1,000 parts each, and I'm not exaggerating, which made the work schedule a little different than what we expected. And so just talk to me about, how you're assigned to this kind of sub team, and you got Uncle Al, who you already know well. But then you're there with my friend Jeff and my friend Rodolfo, who you didn't know before the trip. Talk to us about the team dynamic because building those was a challenge. Just tell us about doing the gazebos and working with some new volunteer friends.
the other 3 guys are saints, putting up with me. I was probably the weakest link there.
I
But
doubt it.
they were very patient, and thankfully, all of them are taller than I am. Height has a tremendous advantage when you're putting those together. They were those prefabricated kits. I thought they were very well researched and very well put together. And when you read the directions correctly, they went together well. We we had a few missteps there where we oriented parts incorrectly. The vast majority of our mistakes on gazebo 1 of 3, which you would expect because we were
Yeah.
on the edge of the learning curve, but everybody was really patient.
Yeah.
And I never got the sense that anybody got upset if we made a wrong turn or if somebody made a suggestion that we didn't think was right. The other guys might say, "Well, let's see how that works out. And if it doesn't work out, well, we got to backtrack a little bit." So we had a little bit of that, but it was an enjoyable experience to be with those other 3 guys, and wonderful to have Maurice, Rodolfo's son, come along for one day. He was a good hand.
Yeah.
Everybody was very willing to work and do things, and as we got to know one another and as we got to understand the assembly process of those gazebos, we got better and better at dividing up duties. You do this while I do this kind of thing, or we'll
Yeah.
do this while you do that type of thing. There are parts of the assembly that required at least 2 and sometimes 3 people to to act at the same time. It just got better with time. And the coolest part of it is when you complete one of those
Mhm.
and it looks nice and all that's really good. But the best part is when the teachers or the kids come over and they actually start to use the stuff. And they
Yeah.
were using them right away.
Yeah.
We were using them right away. We made that first gazebo.
All of us
Then
did. Yep.
and then we constructed the second one underneath the first one because it provided shade.
Yeah. Really let you immediately experience the value of that. And you guys were flexible too. That was one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the trip is we have a schedule, but things on the schedule will change. And we have a layout plan for the playground and kind of their requests for what they'd like to see, but some of that might change. And at first we were like, well, they want the three gazebos here, here, and here. And only two of them ended up where they initially wanted them. A third one actually went to another portion of the playground just because after we got the full layout done based on the dirt work and where we were allowed to do dirt and not, it just worked out in a different spot. And nobody threw their hands up and just said, oh my gosh, another change. Everybody just went with the flow, which is critical for BTCP projects. And I love that you pointed out they immediately use them because knowing that summer is coming and it's about to get a lot hotter than it was when we were there. And it was warm when we were there. Those gazebos are going to make a huge difference in the mid-morning and afternoon for a lot of students and for a lot of teachers. So that was just a very important aspect of the project.
I think it did expand the utility of the playground.
Yeah.
Hands
Yeah.
down. And I think
Absolutely.
you mentioned the flexibility. I don't think you have a choice but to be flexible. And yeah, I didn't think that was a problem.
We just had a lot of good attitudes there. It was great.
Well, I think we also realized, our plan A is, well, it may be a reasonable thing to consider. Here's a better plan B. Let's do that. And everybody was pretty amenable
Everybody
to
was
say,
good
well,
with
yeah,
that.
that's
Everybody was
fine.
good with trying anything once. That's for sure. So
Oh, yeah.
looking at the total project and a bit of the organization some more. You probably heard me say this on the trip, but BTCV operates with the mind of a business and the heart of a mission. And we use volunteer power and OPM, other people's money, to address local infrastructure challenges that, for one reason or another, can't be addressed by the local community. We do that with our community partnerships, which are community activists, and then school partners, which is a school representative. And in PR, Puerto Rico, you got to really see all of that happening in front of you. Our community partner is Unidos por Utuado, and you met some representatives from Unidos por Utuado, but those folks were really behind the scenes folks. You didn't see them out there shoveling, but everything from where we slept to the equipment showing up, all the relations with the government that we need to make sure we can do a project like this. That all happens with our community partner. And then our school partner was Melanie. She was the representative for the school, the Department of Education. She's employed by them. And she was there every day, really just making things happen as well. But as a first-time volunteer, you kind of saw that multifaceted partnership. Tell us about how you saw that working and moving the process forward.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure I have a whole lot to contribute to that. What I can tell you is my overall experience would not have been as positive as it was had all of that not just happened. And I know it didn't just happen. I had no clue how much behind the scenes stuff was going on until about day 3 of the trip. And then the more I quizzed you and Raul about what you'd done that day and what you'd done that led up to that day. And then I saw your interactions with Melanie and the others. And it just, the laundry list of stuff that you guys had to go through was impressive, to say the very least. and I don't mean that from the standpoint of empty accolades. It's well deserved. I mean, we showed up on the project and there were three massive gazebos in boxes. And I'm sitting there thinking, they had to get those here on time delivered. And they were. Not only they had to get there on time delivered, but they had to be stored until we got there, and nobody could mess with them until then.
Yeah, a community member actually brought those up from Ponce, using
Yeah,
he owns a tow truck service. And so they needed a huge truck. They couldn't just
right.
put these in the back of a regular old pickup truck. They were massive. And
Yeah,
so those came up on a flatbed tow truck. So a local business gave his time, gave his fuel, and then the teenage kids unloaded those. And so all those
right.
things happened before we even got there. That was our community partner pushing it forward, the school partner facilitating it happening. So I
Yeah,
love those little stories. I always try to share that with our teams because they can be impressed by what the team leaders do or by what the team accomplishes, but we always want to realize like everything we did, people were already working on it before us and they wanted it. It wasn't like,
right.
if you'll do
That,
this all for me, if you'll just do it all for me, what these communities don't have. This is a low income community. You got lots of parents that are dual income households, so mom and dad are both working. And the last thing on their mind is raising some money for a playground. They're just trying to get things done so their kid can finish school. And so we
right.
close that gap with some other people's money and some volunteer power. And they help us close that gap by saying, hey, I've got a tow truck. I can get those here. And that was only done by just a community call to help. Like, hey, we need this done. The
Yeah,
the
these,
tree stump removal was another great example of
oh, that
just
was
the community
crazy.
saying, yeah, we're here and we'll do it,
Well, I didn't ever get the feeling that we're showing up to do something that we want and is going to make us feel really good about doing because the community doesn't care. The community cares immensely.
Right.
And on a daily basis, people were driving by and several times you'd hear people honk
Yep.
and, you know, scream thank you or gracias. They, they would be there doing that if they could, but for myriad reasons, they are not able to get there and do that.
Yeah.
They may not have the financial resources, but beyond that, you mentioned families working multiple jobs. They don't have the time.
Yeah.
And why do I have the time? Well, because I'm not working.
You got a great education, which
I
allowed
got
you
a
the
great
opportunity to
education.
serve. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I had all those opportunities that allow me this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think the community of Jayuya, it was obvious to me that they're doing everything they can within their power. And if this can be a boost to help them do better, it's a great community in which to invest. And another thing that was really cool, there's a guy there who I don't even know that he has a kid in school there, but he came by and saw what we were doing and said, I'm going to bring you lunch. And sure
Yeah.
enough, the next day, the guy shows up with this 18-course meal and a smile ear to ear and just a random guy
Yeah. Yeah.
who is
He might not have $10,000 for a playground, but he's got 8 lunches. And that's what he can
exactly.
give. And it costs him something to do that.
Oh, it absolutely
That's
did.
the thing that I want everybody to realize when the community does something like that. The tow truck driver, the guy who helped us with the stump, it costs them something to do that. And so they're very much involved and very much bought in.
Well, the guy who came over with the excavator and removed the stump, I mean, we all know what excavator time is not cheap, but
No.
he took the time to bring that over there, and thank God he did.
Yep,
That
we wouldn't have
propelled the
got it without
project.
him.
No, we'd still be there digging out that stump. So there are a lot of examples like that of community buy-in, and that's critical. The community buy-in, I keep referring to that, but that is huge.
Yep.
This is not an opportunity to throw some money at something and build in a little bit of sweat equity and tell your friends when you get back to the States, oh, look what I did in this underserved community. They're going to keep things going.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, when I was initially quizzing Al about this, what is the assurance that after you leave, it's going to keep going? That's what's important to me. I mean, if this project stopped the day we left, it wouldn't have been worth doing. This project is ongoing. It's permanent for those kids. And that's what's special. And it's allowed to be permanent because they've got the support and the maintenance on their end that will be ongoing.
Yeah.
So
Nelson, thinking about walking onto that campus on the first day, we took you guys over to see where we would be working, talked a bit about what we were going to try to achieve. You're standing up on the courts looking kind of downhill, not very usable play space, to the last day, looking from the bottom of campus under one of the shades of the gazebos at the boulder walls that were put in, the level play spaces kind of terraced out. Just tell me about everything that we achieved and what that really felt like for you to see that done. Because it was a lot for 8 people to do.
I didn't imagine exactly what it was going to look like when we finished. The fact that that playground had a little bit of vegetation in terms of trees, I thought was great.
Yeah.
But you could tell that there were some areas of the play area that weren't really anything more than dirt. So those areas needed something that the kids could actually utilize. And so we went from a playground with some huge areas of just space to big areas of really utilizable space. And you could see the evidence of that immediately. I mean, as soon as we finished with the project, on the last day, the kids were in there. I mean, the boys were playing basketball at the hoop. The swing set was getting hyper utilized. The monkey bars were getting utilized. One of the funniest things is, from my perspective, in just further evidence that I don't understand kids as well as I should. We put one table underneath one of the gazebos, and there were so many kids underneath that gazebo. They were just overcrowding that one table. And so I thought, they need another table. So we put another table under there. And what did they do? They all they stayed crowded around the one table and left the second one vacant.
Yeah.
Because they were just having so much fun interacting with one another under that gazebo under the single table. But they would not have been able to utilize that space without the gazebo and the table. And they were there interacting and talking and laughing and playing. I did not envision that when we started the project, but it was obvious when we finished, it was the right thing to do.
As we wrap up, I just want to acknowledge everything that was accomplished. Rodolfo and his family donated a basketball goal. They saw kids who were playing basketball, but instead of putting the ball in a hoop, they were smacking it off a square on a wall or throwing it in a kind of a cage thing that they'd created. And so he donated a basketball goal, which is now in use. And you can see photos of that in the April newsletter. I also want to acknowledge the Veterans United Foundation, the Kettlewell family, and the Page family, who provided additional funding beyond that, which the volunteers, each of you volunteers provide funding, but it provided the additional funding for more projects to be done on that campus, which included the gazebos, included a swing set, monkey bars, a seesaw, a 3-tier seesaw, and then all the dirt work that was done. We brought in a couple of guys with some construction experience, Anthony Scalia and Ted Kettlewell, who were able to operate a skid loader and move some huge river boulders in place so that we'd have some terracing. And just everything that this team did, man, made a really huge improvement to that campus. And so I'm grateful to all of them. I'm just grateful for all of your work, Nelson, all of your sweat that week, for your continually positive attitude throughout the week. I'm so glad that we got to get your story in this Change Your Chat interview to share with others. And I know it'll inspire some new changers to come and serve with us. So thank you for sharing with us today, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the trip. And yeah, it was a good thing. So I can honestly say it was a good thing for those kids and that and the teachers. Yeah.
Well, you did a good thing, man. We hope you'll come on another one with us soon. I'm Grant Venable, Director of Change at Be the Change Volunteers, and you've just heard a Change Your Chat. If you'd like to hear more Change Your Chats, you can find them online at www.btcv.us. You can support our work at www.btcv.us by clicking the donate button. Subscribe for our newsletter, and you can see photos from the Playground Project in Puerto Rico coming up in our April newsletter. Thank you, and be the change.